Hello and welcome back. It has been a while. I recently just finished my move from Virginia to Indiana to pursue my master's degree in clinical psychology. And I'm not going to bore you all too much with that, but I just wanted to let you all know that's where I've been. Today's topic is something that I think is relevant to what I've been experiencing and learning throughout the beginning of my graduate school experience. And it has to do with introversion and the comfort of being an introvert. So, if you're like me and you're someone who's very, very introverted, I would say I'm like above 90th percentile introversion. Like, you could lock me in my house for 2 or 3 weeks and I could not talk to anyone and I'd be perfectly fine. It's like not an issue for me at all. You're going to figure out in life that you're going to start missing opportunities because you don't feel like you need to experience them. And it's not even because, like, you're necessarily afraid. Now, there are nervous or anxious introverts, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about more so the kind of introvert who just doesn't prefer to do these types of things. Are not going to prefer to go out to have social experiences, to meet other people, to establish connections. And as someone who is trying to progress into a higher stage in my life, become a graduate student, become eventually a psychologist one day, I'm learning that I missed out on a lot of things in undergraduate because of my natural preference for introversion. So I want to talk about today some of the things that I've been thinking about related to that, and maybe steps that you can take if you're someone a little younger than me or even older than me who's thinking about how their introversion might be holding them back as well. Let's get into it. A lot of the examples and analogies I'm going to be using here are going to be related to school, but that's mainly just because that's really what's been on my mind for the past 6 months. That's kind of what I've been going through. And I want to tell you about my journey of introversion and how that kind of has held me back in some of my journey going through school and becoming a graduate student, and things that I would change if I could go back to being an undergraduate student. So, starting from the beginning, as an undergraduate student, I took a lot of my courses online. And that was not because I necessarily had to, but because it was more convenient, because I didn't have to talk to other people, I didn't have to go to class, I didn't have to make friends. So I ended up taking about 70% of my classes online by choice. And what I learned from that afterwards is that, when you're in an online class, there's nothing wrong with necessarily taking online classes, but you don't get to have the experience of communicating with your peers, of even meeting your professors. I don't think I can name half of the professors that I had in my online classes because most of the time I never saw their face, I never spoke to them. And that's because, I'm an independent person as well as being an introvert. Now, some people are going to be able to make more out of that if they really think about it. But a lot of introverts, if you're anything like me, weren't thinking about that in that undergraduate experience, weren't thinking about that in that time of their life. So they were cruising through because it's convenient, because it's easier to do the kind of just natural introverted thing of staying to yourself, doing your work on your own, not working in group projects, not talking to your professors, not establishing connections. And then I get to the end of undergraduate, when I start applying for graduate school, and what's the number one thing that you need to get into graduate school other than just experience and grades? It's letters of recommendation. And it kind of hit me when I realized it was like, oh, I don't have more than like one or two good letters of recommendation, and you need three, and you want three amazing ones. You want three really, really good letters of recommendation. And this is the same if you're going to be applying for jobs as well. It's not just a school thing. If you're going to be applying for a job that's more than just like base level retail or entry, you're going to want to have people that you've worked with in the past who can vouch for your expertise or your personality, the kind of person you are, and whether or not you're going to be able to mesh well into the environment that you're trying to get into. So as an introvert, I kind of realized a little too late that I had missed the opportunities to establish these connections with peers and professors during my undergraduate experience. And it was something that really made it a lot harder to get into a graduate program. So what I'm telling you now is if you're, an introvert and you're someone who's at that stage in your life where you're just doing things the kind of natural introverted way, maybe think about that. Maybe think about the fact that, you're taking the easy way now. You're avoiding the difficulties of doing the more extroverted activities, of taking maybe a few classes in person, and that might come back to bite you later down the road. I also want to talk about a mindset that I've kind of adapted over the past 6 months that I feel like has already started to improve my experiences for me and improve how things are going to be for me going forward. So during the first week of graduate school, we get an email that says, hey, On Friday, we're going to be having a psychology department graduate student orientation where the professors of your department will be there. The students will be there both first year and second year, and you'll be able to meet everyone, talk to them, have some food, drinks, socialize. As an introvert, someone who's quite introverted, my natural inclination was to go, not really for me. I don't know if that's something that I want to do. I don't really just want to go socialize with people for like an hour and a half. And then I thought back to what I've been thinking about throughout this video, what I've been thinking about recently, and the fact that I was struggling to get those letters, and then I didn't know people, and I didn't know my professors, and I didn't have those connections. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I should go. Maybe it's not going to be very fun. Maybe I'm not going to have a good time, but maybe I should start going to these things. And that's when I really thought about the idea that, as an introvert, especially someone who wants to succeed and wants to go to higher places in life, you kind of have to adopt a just say yes attitude to a lot of these things. And that doesn't mean you need to go to like every single event or thing that people invite you to go out to, or that your program invites you to, or your work invites you to. But it's more so just a say yes sometimes. Like pick the things that are important or that stand out, even if you don't necessarily think that you want to do them, and go do them. I went to that orientation and I actually got to establish some connections with my peers and establish connections with professors, ones that I didn't know that were in the department that were doing research that I thought was interesting. And I think that is something that was really beneficial to me. And all I had to do is spend an hour and a half on a Friday doing something that I wouldn't normally do. And the benefit from that greatly outweighs the annoyance of having to go be social for an hour. So I think that's really where you want to be thinking about this as an introvert. Is it's a cost benefit weight. Yes, it is annoying or frustrating or not exactly always fun to go socialize or do things that you don't want to be doing, but there's this huge benefit or boost that you can get by doing these things occasionally, by forcing yourself to kind of go outside of your comfort zone. I think it's just natural philosophy and wisdom. People say all the time that, to grow, you really have to expand outside of your comfort zone. You have to go to the places that you don't normally go. You have to reach outside of your normal boundaries. And I think that is absolutely true for introverts as well, who want to grow into more capable people, students, workers, professionals, anything really. You kind of have to step outside of that boundary that you've set for yourself. So that's really what I want to tell you in this video is if you're someone who's like me, who's highly independent, who's very introverted, don't be afraid to, take a step every now and then outside of that comfort zone. Don't be afraid to just say yes to things. You actually might find, like me, that when you start going to these things, that you have a good time. I actually found that I had a very solid time discussing with professors and peers at that event that I went to. And I plan to say yes to more things in the future. And hopefully it will be not only something that is beneficial to me on a personal professional level, but also on a kind of personal level. Hopefully, maybe I'll be able to make some acquaintances or develop deeper connections with my cohort professors that will extend just beyond the realm of use or efficiency or getting something out of it. Being able to establish actual connections with these people that can be meaningful in the social realm as well. So I hope this has been something that's helpful for you introverts out there. Don't be afraid to just say yes to things occasionally. Step outside of your comfort zone. It will be beneficial to you, I promise. It will be something that will be rewarding to you down the line. And who knows, you may even have a good time. Thanks for watching.